IU's Women's Center. We are excited to connect with you as we highlight compelling and heartfelt stories on what the intersections of womanhood on a college campus look like. We call our podcast Womxnhood, spelling woman with an X, to include the many perspectives and identities of women. I'm Amanda Bazil, your co-host for the Women Podcast. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm a program assistant for the Women's Center, the owner of a blog called The Individual Mindset, and a chai tea fanatic.
And I am Vanessa, your co-host for the Womxnhood podcast. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am a program assistant for the Women's Center. Passionate about empowering and equipping teen girls to walk in their God-given identity.
So it's a new month, and we've got some new things in store within the Women's Center and on the podcast. In fact, I'm happy to introduce our first ever guest for the spring semester, Miss Q Alexander.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we're excited to have you here. Now, if you guys don't know, Q is an author, a mentor, and an entrepreneur. She's currently a mentor for Big Brothers Big Sisters organization and has been for about 3 years now. She was a Big Sister of the Year in Broward County in 2019, whoop whoop, and has a women's fragrance line that she's launching very soon. So, Q, could you give us maybe any details on the name of the line, or is that a secret?
I can give that to you because I already have the samples that came out. It's called Fearless Woman.
Okay.
So
she brought us samples.
Yeah, I have a thing with scents, and people always kind of joke, like when I go places, and they'll be like, "Were you just in the hallway? Were you just in the bathroom?" Like they smell me a lot. So I said, I love fragrances. Why don't I just create my own? So I just did research on how to create your own fragrance. First time, scam, got my money back. But you know what? I kept going because I'm passionate about it. So the next one, another scam.
Oh, no.
And I just kept going, and I found a company called Unique Fragrance. They're located in Germany. Nice. And I saw that they had great credentials. They did a unisex for Gwen Stefani.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like, okay. Yeah, so I said, you know what? Let me go with them. Let me try it on a personal level first. Came out great. I said, all right, let me do it on a business level. So they give you about 51 different scents. You have to choose about 6. Mind you, I can't walk in. It's in Germany, so it's not local where I can walk in and know
and test
what I'm
able,
choosing.
Right.
Listen, the
That
scents that I chose, and then they added the balance to it. It came out amazing. They sent me 3. When I smelled number 1, I said, this is it. I had people test it. Majority of everyone chose number 1, and I said, you know what? Thank you, God.
It all worked out.
Yeah, it did. So I'm excited to get it all out sometime this year, and I have other things I'm working on in between. So it's a process, and I'm happy about it.
So stay tuned for the Q Alexander fragrance line called, what was it again?
Fearless Woman.
Fearless Woman, y'all. And I'm really excited to try those samples.
Oh, yes.
So thank you so much for
No problem.
Well, today we'll be talking with Q about her autobiographical titled Dangerous Intentions, Mouth Full of Lies, where she details the journey of her tumultuous dating history with two very interesting men.
Jamaican, too.
Yeah. Yep, you see?
They're both Jamaican. But before we get to our guests, just to keep you ladies in the loop with the Women's Center, we're going to talk about some upcoming events and programs you don't want to miss. The 14th Annual Women Who Lead Conference. Women Who Lead is approaching. Grab your girls and go get better together. March 31st, it'll be at MMC, and April 1st, it'll be at BBC. Valentine's Day is coming up, but for my single ladies, you grab your girls, you go out you can have a karaoke night, you can get pampered, you can have a game night or movie night with your friends, with your girls.
Exactly.
You don't need a man, sis. Like, you got your girls, so don't feel left out. You can still enjoy the night. We also have Minute Mentoring. Session 1 of Minute Mentoring was a great turnout, and we are looking forward to you ladies coming out to Session 2. Once again, Minute Mentoring is a program the Women's Center facilitates for undergrad students to receive tips and advice from professional women on navigating their college experience. Session 2 will be February 12th at 3 p.m. GC 314. So stay tuned for all of the awesome activities and programs we have this February coming up.
All right, thank you for all of that, Vanessa. And now I'm going to give you guys just a debrief on Black History Month. Being that it's February, it's only right that we talk a little bit about Black History Month. But before we do, I did want to share something that the Women's Center had worked on. It was a project that I created called the Unsung Women of Black History Pop-Up, and I did this at the BSU's Culture Fest event. So to give you guys some backstory, the Unsung Woman, again, is something of a concept that I created and came up with during a meeting at work one day. The pop-up is basically a Jeopardy-style game that quizzes people on the trivia of black female historical achievements. And Lordana, one of the grad assistants here at the Women's Center, suggested I collaborate with the BSU and hold a pop-up event at one of their events. And so that's how we learned about the Culture Fest, and it's pretty much, you know, me just reaching out to them and them agreeing to it, and everything just kind of came into fruition. The Culture Fest did take place last night. It was from 7 to like 9:30, so it was a short, short event. It was at the but the WC ballrooms, and that's at BBC. And it was really fun. There were performances. It was food. The food was amazing. I had some conch and some. Man, like that's all you really need to say, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's food there, and you know.
I'm there.
Yeah, exactly. People come running. It was also just really good vibes, and I loved how well people did respond to the pop-up. I purposely chose women that you just don't hear about. So it was funny to see, you know, people's reactions to the answers that they weren't anticipating. And then you kind of did see that, maybe that light bulb moment of, oh, wow, like I didn't know that, but, you know, maybe I should know that. Absolutely. So that was the whole goal. I was glad I was able to have many teachable moments last night. But while we're on the topic of Black history, I also wanted to shout out some of the internet's best and blackest resources out there for news, culture, and entertainment. I know that without a doubt that the following pages and sites that I'm about to list will be off the chain this month and are therefore definitely worth the check in every now and then, because I promise you, once you do, you won't regret it. So are you guys ready for the list?
Yes.
All right, number one, I've placed, I want to talk about Embracing Black Culture. Embracing Black Culture also has an IG page, and that's at Embracing Black Culture. Their slogan is to educate, empower, and to entertain, which I oddly find are the same 3 E's that I try to embody in my professional career. But the way they do it is just, they're humorous and they're serious, and it's an interesting mix that not many people can pull off. They're amazing because aside from hooking it up with promos, they share hilarious TikTok videos with threads like Blackity Black TikTok. Did you? Yeah. It was. Please watch it. It's so funny. And a thread of a not so fun scene. I don't know if you've seen this, but it was a not so fun scene of the episode of The Cosby Show, where Vanessa gets in trouble for lying about sleeping at a friend's house to go to a concert in Brooklyn. So Claire, it was just like a moment where Vanessa was on the couch and she's just getting scolded by Claire Huxtable. And man, you guys, like just seeing that kind of brought back a traumatic moment of me getting in trouble by my parents. Yeah. And so I did want to open this up. Like, do you guys remember getting in trouble with your parents and how that felt like? Growing up as kids?
What? Yeah.
Right. And that, because the way she, you know, it was a moment of her like kind of like questioning Vanessa, and then she asks Vanessa a question, but it was a rhetorical question, and so Vanessa walked into the trap and tried to answer it, and she immediately like snapped back. And I just feel like that was that moment where I'm like, oh man, like you felt that shudder. And it's funny because in the comment section, everyone is agreeing to knowing what that feels like growing up black, and having your parents kind of being like, you know what I mean? So it was just that moment of like, you know what you would do and what the repercussions of that would be, so you know not to do it. And that was just a nostalgic moment for me. But on a brighter note, the next news publication site is The Griot. They're known on IG as @TheGriot, or you can check them out at www.thegriot.com. It mirrors the simple and tasteful journalistic quality that most major news publications carry today, except with a lot more color. Now, although their website isn't necessarily brimming with Black history galore, I mean, their articles and video stories pretty much do that every day. They're on their Instagram, they've taken to creating a daily post on the Today in #BlackHistory, and have so far given their followers brief descriptions on people like Rosa Parks, Trayvon Martin, and Bob Marley. Last but not least, we do have Blavity on IG. They're known as @Blavity or simply www.blavity.com. Blavity is a news and commentary on Black culture for the millennials, who drive it. They too are doing something similar to what The Griot is doing, except their special twist highlights significant Black women and their accomplishments. So similar to what I've created, they also have like, they just highlight Black women, and they do it in like these really nice cartoon style posts. So it's really engaging. They got like the nice African colors and textures and prints to it. And so far they've been able to include Celia Cruz, Octavia Butler, and Zora Neale Hurston. So definitely check those out if you guys can. Last but not least, we do have the Collective, and this is specifically, I'm talking about the Collective Black Women at the Bay. So to give you guys a bit of a background story on the Collective overall, the Collective is a concept created by Cindy Buster. She's the assistant director of the Women's Center and my supervisor. It's a monthly meetup discussion hosted at both MMC and BBC and is designed for Black identified women to find community, conversation, and capacity to navigate their lived collegiate experiences. I had the honor of being able to facilitate the last collective. I did so with Lordana, and we had this at the Sky Lounge at BBC. It was a great turnout for what it was, knowing that, there's not too many people at BBC. Yeah. But, when it comes to things like this, in my opinion, I feel like, especially with discussion groups, sometimes it's not quantity, but quality.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And being able to, have a space where people feel comfortable enough to want to be okay, I'll be vulnerable and just enjoy that was beautiful. So that's pretty much all I can give y'all about that. But if this does sound like something you want to, take part in, the next session, which is session 3, will be held on February 19th on both campuses, with MMC taking place at 4 p.m. at the LVN 131, and BBC taking place again at the Sky Lounge in the Bayview Housing at 6 p.m.
Awesome.
Yes.
So that's all the updates for the Women's Center and our programs this month. Now let's get into toxic relationships with Q Alexander. Ladies, grab your snacks, get comfortable, because sis, you don't want to miss the tea.
Do not.
You don't want to miss the tea. Q is about to spill all the tea and give us wisdom, and she will be giving out. So stay tuned for that.
Welcome back. Now, before the break, we introduced our first ever guest here on the podcast for the spring semester, author, mentor, and entrepreneur Q Alexander. We also briefed you on the 14th Annual Women Who Leads Conference, Galentine's Day, and Minute Mentoring. We also spoke about one of our favorite months of the year, Black History Month, and the Black news publications and Instagrams you should be following before February is up, as well as the Collective. And now, we're going to get right into the nitty-gritty with Q Alexander and her autobiographical titled Dangerous Intentions, Mouthful of Lies. But first, Q, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
A little bit about me. Okay, well, my name is Quinice, but everybody calls me Q. For some reason, I don't know, a lot of people mess my name up. They add a T in there. They're like Quantrice. I'm like, what?
Oh, no.
Just call me Q. It's okay. So I don't mind that. I was born here in Miami, Florida. My family background is Trinidadian.
Oh, okay. I was trying to guess. I'm like, Caribbean?
Yeah. A lot of people are like, where are you from? But yeah. So and I'm so serious about my business. I'm very, very focused in the things that I'm doing. I love helping people. I love inspiring people. I love positive energy. That's so important to me. So when I met you, Amanda, it was amazing. I was like, I'm looking forward to connecting, and now meeting you as well is just awesome. I'm so happy to be here. Yes. I also have a fun side. I'm going to tell you, I'm a serial prankster. People will not expect. Listen, I am a serial prankster. I do have this man voice that I do. I don't know if I'm going to get y'all right now. I might surprise you.
Some voices. Okay,
yeah,
ready for it.
And people look at me and it's so unexpected, so that makes it even more funny. Okay. So, but yeah, I'm all about having a good time, and then when it comes down to business, I take it very seriously.
Well, I'm excited to see the fun side of you right after we get through, the more serious part.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But I do know that Vanessa actually had a question to kind of kick us off. So
so Q, from the title Dangerous Intentions, Mouthful of Lies, this is such a vivid title to use. So tell us more about the inspiration behind the title and even the particular photo that you chose to display on the cover.
Yeah, that actually happened. I was sitting at my desk at work one day, and I had already started writing the manuscript, and it's like the dangerous intentions, came into my mind because obviously the intentions of the individuals were not genuine. And then something was missing from it. Like, I needed something else. And I remember Mouthful of Lies just popped into my head, and I kept repeating it. I was like, that's it. Dangerous Intentions, Mouthful of Lies. And to be honest, I self-published, so it's very challenging. Although I had been writing in my journal for years, it's very different when you decide to when you turn around and write a book. That's a whole book.
Right.
And the company that was assisting me, they were supposed to help with the editing, help with the cover, and they were just dropping the ball. And I
Wow.
said, man, you guys are a team. I'm one person.
Yeah.
How am I getting this right and you guys keep on messing up? But that's how determined I am. It just pushed me to just figure it out. So I figured out how to do the editing and making sure it was all good.
You know,
Because I was not going to come out with a book.
right.
And I would read reviews from like other books and stuff and
Right.
familiarize myself. And I'm looking at some of the comments and they're like, yeah, that was an okay book, but yeah, they have a lot of grammatical errors. And I said, I
That's a
refuse.
pet peeve for
my book.
yeah.
And so I'm very, very detailed. I will go over something just to make sure that it's good. So I'm glad that, you know, everything worked out with the cover. I used to do like some modeling work before.
Okay.
So that was taken in a theme room. I think it may have been the Japanese theme room or something.
Okay.
And that picture just kind of popped in my head. I saw black and white. And then I said, okay, the letters have to pop since it's a black and white cover. And I saw red. And I just created it in this little Photoshop thing myself. And I sent it over to them.
That's when Photoshop was.
Yeah. And I said, okay, this should be very, very helpful because all you guys have everything that I want it to be. Just go ahead, your team, fix it up,
Put it together.
Right.
and then send it over to me. And then that's how that. And I was up 3:00 in the morning. It hit me. I'm one of those people when something comes to me, I can't sleep. I have to get it done, and that's how it came about. So
Wow,
dedication.
Yeah, for sure.
Quite the journey. A lot of people probably would have gave up after the
Yeah,
first few attempts,
yeah.
but you went ahead and you did it all yourself. So
Yeah,
that
for
just
sure.
is a testament. If you can't find people to help you do something, do it yourself.
Right.
But that does take me into the next question, which is pretty much getting now into the relationship with Devon, because that is the first person who we meet, and you immediately kind of just take us right into it and how you guys met at work. So my thing while reading this was that in understanding your relationship with Devon, or you know, this situation you were in with Devon, because of the certain language that was used, I wasn't sure whether or not you guys had agreed or were in an agreement to be in a relationship. So, for example, right, the words of choice would always kind of alternate and kind of made it a bit confusing to understand. So I wasn't sure if this was just supposed to be a situationship, or if there was a relationship building or folding, or if, you know, it was a friends with benefits that just kind of got a little messy. So could you kind of guide us into helping us understand really where you and Devon stood and how that whole thing, you know, went about?
That's the thing with that. That's why, like, I went so direct. It matches my personality to show you what I was in was so confusing. There was no clarity. But I had conversations with him, and we had conversations before that. And if you notice, I take you backwards. I start from
we were talking about that.
I started backwards because I wrote from the place that I was hurting from at that time, and then it took you backwards to Mark. But yeah, this person, he was just all over the place. For me, it was simple. Like, listen, I knew that I wasn't going to be serious with him as I was with Mark. I didn't necessarily want that with him, but I felt like, okay, we're adults. It's whatever. We're cool. We like each other.
Right.
And just act like a normal human being. But
Right.
that's the thing. What made it so all over the place, because one minute it's like, you're so special to me, and then the next minute it's like, oh, whatever. Like, you know, he just would. And that's what was like, why are we going through this?
Right.
Like,
why are we having
problem?
a relationship problem?
That's what I'm
relationship
saying.
when it's not.
Yeah, so that's why it comes off that way, because I wanted you to feel exactly like what I was going through, where it's like, okay, one day we're here, the next day it's this, the next day, and it was just a whole bunch of, that was so unnecessary.
That makes sense. Now, that leads me to my next question, right, which is, then how do we understand, or what do you guys think? Now, this is like, you know, kind of like everyone kind of puts their opinion to this, but how do we then try to get a guy to understand if we're just trying to have a friends with benefits situation? What does that look like? What does that entail? What are the boundaries or the confines within that would label that as a friends with benefit, and how do you keep it as that, right? How do you keep then a relationship vice versa? Because what's the opposite of that is a solid relationship. What does that look like? What are the confines for that? And how do you, again, understand that if you're doing this with this person, that they too understand that this is what we're doing?
Yeah, both has to be on the same page.
How do you guys, like, what do you think, Vanessa? How does two parties understand that is what's happening if they're, you know, within those realms?
I think it's just having boundaries. So just being clear, like when you first meet the person, like, hey, this is what I want, and you let me know what you want. And just being clear so that there wouldn't be any confusion and you just going like this, honestly. So just clarity and just being with someone or getting to know that person. If, like, do they truly want to be in this? Like, what are your intentions in getting in this? Can I trust you, you know? So some of those questions to ask, and just honestly boundaries as well. So
I definitely agree with communication, because I think oftentimes, and I know I've gotten myself in this situation as well, I wouldn't clearly communicate, I guess, what I wanted initially. So I'm going in, especially if I'm really liking a guy, and that's the reason why I'm a strong advocate of dating. Don't just date one guy, date multiple guys. Because if you are just it's like putting all your eggs in one basket, like the saying goes, right? Then God forbid a basket falls, your eggs are done. So I've had to learn that, you know, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket, in a basket that probably is not even sturdy. Here I am thinking it is strong and it can carry my eggs, but you know, it's not that basket. So it's just learning that, you know, communicate, like have that conversation before. And, you know, if that is something that you both are doing, then understand, like, okay, I know that I can do this. Can you do this? You know, and that goes for friends with benefits or relationship. Because situationships, I got a really good friend who was in one. It just tends to get a little too...
It's a hot mess.
Yeah, like, right? Don't you agree? Or do you feel like...
Listen, yes. What I also feel, even with the communication, there has to be a level of maturity with both people. Because I'm a person, I need to communicate. I like clarity. Like, there's no reason for us to be going all over the place. Like, listen, if you don't want this, I'm good. If you do, I'm good. And I also realized, especially with him, it was like a control thing. So where he's seeing that, okay, I'm accepting. If this is not what you want, let me go. When he sees that, he was pulling me back. He did not want, like, it was like, wait a minute. Like, no, it has to be on his terms. So yeah, it's also with that. Like, someone has to be mature enough. Can't be sitting there pretending that they're someone that they're not. Like, you have to be open and honest on both sides, and that will alleviate so much confusion, unnecessary drama, and hurt.
It will. Very true. And since you touched on that controlling aspect that he did have, you know, he was indeed, Devon, from, you know, what we read, very controlling. He would try to control you emotionally. He would control situations that I guess weren't going in his favor by acting a certain kind of way or doing certain things. So it was very manipulative. I did want to understand, like, how do you now deal with controlling or how do you deal with behavior from your partners now? Do you still feel like, how do you react to that, or that sense of control, and how are you, if you are, like, aware of it, how do you know the warning signs of it? And when you sense that, what's your communication style like when it comes to dealing with that situation?
Oh, I don't. I'm in such a different space in my life, especially after I had already made decisions of how I was going to handle things prior to going to therapy. And when I did, and she just solidified everything that I was doing, like, she's like, do you feel like you're answering your own questions? Like, you know exactly what you should be doing. And it's like, I don't entertain that type of behavior whatsoever, especially as adults. It's just like, you should be a decent human being and know how to treat someone. And as I mentioned, you know, think about your mother, think about your sister, your daughters. Like, how would you feel if they came to you crying and saying, this person treated me this way? You would not feel okay. So be mindful about what you're doing in life. It's completely uncalled for. So when I have a very strong intuition.
We see. Yes, we do.
Yeah, so when you sense something about somebody, what I realize is, when you're feeling it, no matter what they're telling you, no matter they're on the floor begging, pleading, that does not matter. It's all about what they're showing you and what you're feeling here, because guess what? In the end, they're going to keep on manipulating and telling you what you want to hear, and it's going to get to that point where it's going to blow up, and you're going to see, you know what? I should have went along with what I was feeling and exactly what you're showing me. It just make sense. If what they're doing does not make sense, and you go by what you're seeing and what you're feeling, go with that. That's what I learned. Don't even try to make sense of their behavior, because they're unstable.
Exactly. And if you try to understand a mindset like that, you will drive yourself crazy.
Because you have a normal mind, so it's going to drive you crazy. Let them be crazy by themselves or with someone else, but disconnect from that type of behavior. So I don't even deal with it at all. I don't.
It's beautiful to see that you've evolved from that so much. And how you mentioned therapy and how that got you through it, which does lead me into my next question, because you had mentioned how you were able to, and I love this part, when you realized you went to Google and you were searching up, what is going on with this man. You realize he was a textbook narcissist.
Yeah.
Okay, like he literally
hit all the lines.
Even when I was searching it up, I was checking it all off, all the bullet points.
Yeah.
So I was going to lead me into my next question, which was, have you ever considered using other resources like therapy? But you have mentioned that your therapist helped you to understand that you were answering. You had power within you all along.
Yeah.
And you were able to answer even your own questions. So can you tell us just how much therapy has helped you as far as realizing that? What other areas of growth have you also seen?
It was, oh my gosh, like it just felt like, because when someone like that is trying to strip you of what they see that's good in you and kind of make you feel, like that you're below them or belittle you.
Right.
The therapist was able to just pour that goodness back into me.
Oh, that's
because
beautiful.
I felt like it was draining.
Yeah.
And that was, Mark was one thing, but this was different, where someone is like 1 minute they're normal, the next minute they're changing, and then when you try to be normal, it was like, you're doing too much. Like, did you just rehearse and watch something?
Exactly.
Because it wasn't him.
Right.
It was like, why? You're
putting on an act.
You're 50. Like, why are you doing all of this? And the thing, what I want people to understand too, it's so easy for people to like sit back, that's on the outside, and judge, and they'll say, well, why did you stay so long? When you're in it, you're looking at it from like different perspectives.
Right.
He was a good dad, or from what he showed me.
We got
I love
yeah.
that. He was good in what he did as far as like a manager at work. There were different qualities that I did like, so it wasn't just this foolishness that he was carrying on with, but it got to a point where that was just overshadowed. That was just too much, and it was like, okay, you're not normal. There's something wrong here.
Exactly.
No normal person should act like this.
Yeah.
And he would say to me, oh, he just feels that it's better if he's just mean to me, so that I guess we don't get too close. I said, why don't you just do what a man should do? And if you can't handle this, just say that I don't think that we should, stay connected anymore. Yeah. And I'll just walk away, and you can be happy. No? Does that not make sense in your mind?
It goes back to that like you said, that him just having that instability, to not be able to even rationalize and then communicate, and like, I'm not good for you, so therefore you should do better. He doesn't have that capacity,
right?
To do that, and that's the sad thing. And then you want to help. Because I got that feel from you a lot, is that you had a really good heart and you were able to see the different sides of him. You saw the potentiality. But unfortunately, that then leads me into like, the topic of expectations and how oftentimes we do, and this is something I hugely struggle with as well, having the expectation for someone, especially someone close to you, to operate a certain way in your life, and then being disappointed when they're unable to fulfill that. It's almost more so unfair for that person, really, because of the fact that it's like they're probably doing the best they can given how they're set up, and so you may want them to do better, but they're
can't.
Not,
they're not built to do better,
or
based off things
they're probably not
face.
even right, or they're not in that space right now in their lives. So the best thing to do sometimes is like to leave well enough alone. But that did lead me into, again, expectations and, realizing that, oftentimes, again, because you did care for this individual and you did see his potential, you often seem to rationalize some of his dangerous behavioral attributes. So how has your expectations of a person's behavior now in a relationship changed since being in that type of relationship with this type of person?
Yeah, it changed a lot. Like I said, anytime something is unsettling for me, I'm not going to sit there and keep giving you the benefit of the doubt, Right. Like, if it's not happening on my side, why should I keep accepting it from you? That's a problem for me. Like, if you are clear on what you want and you say, hey, I like this person, I want to be with this person, shouldn't it, like, go along the lines of treating them with respect and treating them well? So I'm not going to make sense of you if you're acting like something's wrong with you and disrespecting me, then we can't do this.
Exactly.
And that's how it is now. Like, I will nip it in the bud if I see anything close to that.
That's
or
what I'm talking about.
Okay.
You catch me.
Like, no, I don't want to hear any foolishness.
Exactly.
I don't want to hear no stories.
Come
on.
No.
This is my standard, and you're not doing that. So
exactly.
Yeah,
right.
like, I'm sure it's easy for you to go somewhere else and play games, and there are people who will sit there and accept it, and they love to use the line, "Nobody's perfect." It's not. It's not about being perfect. You just can't even be decent. Like, what do you mean? That's not it. And then that person starts to condition their mind, and making excuses for everything that they keep doing. That's no, because you're gonna bring yourself down even more, and it's going to get worse. That's it.
I feel like that opens you up. You know, it opens up that portal. Once you ruin your self-esteem, right, your dignity, everything else will crumble after that.
They see that, and they will keep on making you weaker and keep picking at it. They see that.
And that's
they
what they
know.
want, right? I was reading a little bit. And I thought I think I have it here a little bit about how, you know, narcissists, they do thrive off of that. And you would think that narcissists are more so looking for people who might be like weaker, but not, on the contrary, because again, you're an accomplished woman. You're coming out with the fragrance line. You are your big sister of the year. So really, narcissists, they tend to look for people who are good-natured, who are strong-willed, and who are driven, because they want someone who looks good by their side. You make them look good.
Exactly.
Right? Once they have access to you, they will find what makes you tick, and then that's how they start turning the wheels, getting in your head. So it'll be all smiles in public, then in private, it's a different story. Tearing you down. It's a nightmare. It's a Tyler Perry nightmare.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it actually, you know what? Did you guys see the Netflix movie of?
I was hearing about it with Tyler Perry.
Yes, the last A Fall from Grace.
Yeah,
I did remember
that.
Did you see it? Okay.
It actually does have a huge part to deal with that. The guy that she fell in love with. Now the roles were reversed, right? So she was the older woman, and he was the younger man, and he conned her completely. That was her best friend's son.
That was a mess.
A hot mess.
Yeah, it was a hot. I don't want to ruin too much for you, Vanessa, or anybody else who hasn't seen it. But that right there, it shows you how, you know, you can be. And this woman, again, she had a beautiful home. She had a job in a bank and was working there for a really long time. Was trusted and respected.
Stole from her, like, it's just
And she was literally at the point of, it was so sad, of willing to just like go to jail and be locked up, because I got a feel from her that she felt like she probably deserved all of that, and no one deserves ever to be the victim of someone who has issues like this ever. So I did want to, you know, continue asking just a few more questions to touch up a little bit more on, you know, the whole case with Devon. I noticed that in chapter 9, when you ended the relationship with him and your old flame, well, more so, when ending a relationship, I realized that, like, you, in utilizing your power and your ability to take control of the situation, I wanted to see, like, how do you go about stating your power? Because you talked a little bit about that. So how do you continue or show in different areas of how to assert your power, or to, you know, maintain your power in your relationships? Because I feel like this goes along with boundaries. So how do you do that in your romantic? How do you do that in your platonic? Like, how do you now navigate these things?
I'm a very strong-willed person, but then it's like I have that side. I'm caring by nature. What I realized with myself, which I had to stop doing, because I know I'm not one of those in-between people. It's either I'm caring or I shut off.
Right.
And because I know when you get me to that point where I shut off, and there's not like a pullback, you're not going to be able to get me back, I still was like trying to hold on a little bit to that, to still care, because I know like how I am. So I realized like that's what I was doing. But again, if something is not healthy for me, I don't want to keep on giving any type of leeway. I can't do it.
No more energy.
A lot of women come up to me and they've asked me, how did you like stop? How did you just shut it off? And I said, that's one thing with me too. When I get to a point and I'm so turned off by you, there's nothing you could say or do I don't care. Like, I just shut off.
But what does that point look like? What's the breaking point? How many times should a woman, how many times, because what you talked about a lot, and again I loved, is that you were so in tune with your intuition. Your intuition did not lie from the jump.
For real, like, I'm like this.
Yes. But yet you were very patient. So we've seen that also, that patient, caring quality.
Right.
The flags kept coming, but the patience was still there, right? when is enough supposed to be enough, or when, you know, can the last straw be the last straw? Some people, I have a 3 strikes you're out rule for any situation. Certain situations, it's honestly like 1 strike, but that's more like little situations, like it may be class projects. If I feel like this person's giving like 1 flag, like you just did 1 thing, and I'm like, you're not gonna be a good group partner, I would like immediately turn around and find somebody else. But you know, for something more serious to me, my 3 strikes policy is like legit. What would yours look like?
You know what? Well, now it's different. I don't even know. It's 1 and you might be out, or 1 like
depending on
halfway.
You
out. Wait, you about to do something?
Yeah,
no,
you out.
No, get out. No.
You just
I think again, I was just trying to be a little, and you know what? It made it a little harder when someone is in your face, because you work in the same place as someone.
Right.
It's hard to get away. I would park in the, I don't know if that part was in there.
Which part?
Where we were parking in a garage, and then when I wasn't speaking to him, he would try to park near me.
Yes,
and it was just like he just kept like hoovering around me. I'm in the
and how he,
I think it was after your birthday. Was it that part where he just kept being in your space and he was trying to be next to you and he was like singing happy birthday?
Oh no! Even after that, it's like when he realized he lost control, and it was just like he just kept trying to like sitting in the lobby while I'm like on the laptop, and he's just there like this, like acting like he's on the phone, and just like out of nowhere, just trying to be nice, and you know what he thought, and this will probably be because I want to turn this into a movie. So I'm looking.
We did say that.
I was like, this is again like
I cannot. I'm looking forward to that, being able to like be behind the scenes and put it together. People have asked me, am I going to play myself? I wouldn't mind, because I do like. I want to do more acting. I've done a lot of extra work. If I don't play myself, I do have someone in mind that I would love for her to play me. But I think what happened was he turned up at my house. This is after this. He popped up at my house, and then him and Mark.
Was this the first time he popped at
this
your
is
house?
when I cut him off. After I didn't speak to him for like 5 months. This fool pops up, knocks on my door after us not speaking for 5 months. I realized Mark also, after not speaking to Mark for about 3 years, Mark texted me within days of each other. This happened. And I'm like, it was so creepy. Like, I went back in my phone and I was like, realized Mark had called me a couple of days prior. Then he had texted me apologizing to me for everything he had done. It was just so eerie how that ended up happening. So that'll probably just be added like in the movie, and
as that suspense moment.
That is.
I can literally imagine clutching my seat like, oh my god.
What?
It was crazy. And then he's just like, and I'm looking, I'm like, because I just woke up from a nap, I'm like, is that really his peanut head? Like, it really, really was. Like, it was so. All of that is gonna come about.
I can't wait. Oh my god.
Yeah, all of that is gonna come about. But yeah, I don't have time for that. Like, we are here to enjoy life. You know, treat each other with respect. Like, all of that is unnecessary. And if you have anybody, I don't care if it's friends, family members, a boyfriend, husband, whatever. Like, nobody should be coming into your life disrespecting you and crossing your boundaries. Like, that's uncalled for. It's like, no.
Wow.
Well, I believe this does conclude the Devon portion of things. Devon was quite. Oh, Devon. Devon gave me a headache.
Exactly.
Serious headache. But now we do want to get into Mark, who is his complete, total opposite.
Exactly.
And
from flowers, gifts.
Go ahead.
How did you, knowing that Mark was your first relationship, but this goes back a little bit to Devon, so how did you transition from someone showing you how they felt and giving you the gifts and doing all that to now being in a relationship with Devon, who like closed off at times? Like, how did you transition from there?
The differences with that is that when I looked at it in hindsight with Mark, I felt as though, yes, he was doing all of these great things, but I felt he was doing it to blind me from the truth of what he knew was going to happen. Like, he knew that he wasn't doing the necessary work, to be honest, to actually have a future with me. So he felt like, let me do all of these things to keep her here. But it was all about himself, ultimately. I felt like Mark did not love me from his heart. I felt like it was like from a need or from a mood or what wasn't working on the other side that he made me think was over. And he knows, had he been honest, I would have never allowed him to, you know, get that close to me, and us having that place together, and us having a car together.
Yeah.
That was it was just a waste. And so I remember reading something, and it just completely it mentions Mark. It's exactly who he is. There's three people in your life, three types of people. Like those who help you in bad times, those who put you in bad times, and those who leave you. That's exactly who Mark is. He's like 3 in 1. So it's just a confusing thing where someone appears, I love you so much, outside of my mom and my kids, you're the most important person to me. Not only the talking, but being there. When I was sick in the hospital, he was there. In my face, I love you, you know, pushing himself in my family. So that one was a bit different, to be like, who does this? Who does all of this? And then they actually really don't love a person. So that was really tough to understand why.
It was just his character more so, and how he was set up that threw you off.
Yeah.
Some people can probably have that quality to them where, you know, you just meet some people, they're just nice, but you felt so, like, you probably felt a connection, or you're like, maybe, because, you know, some guys, right, maybe, and women have this ability too, but I'm speaking more so, like, with men, they just could be charmers, and you're thinking, ooh, he's flirting with you, but really, he was just being nice. So it's like, it's almost like, damn, then how do you
navigate
some guys can be flirty, and it's like, then they were, like, this whole time, like, wifed up or whatever, and you're like, dude, what are you doing? And you feel like, but you know, it's like, no, that's just his character, and that's how he was set up. So it's tricky dealing.
He took it, that was just way too far. Like, you had a whole life together. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just like, and I remember there was a few months before it blew up. It's like, I remember us sitting down, and I said to him, and I felt it. I felt it, and I said, why do I feel like you're gonna hurt me? Here you go, acting. Why would I want to hurt you? Boy,
like, you know you're going to hurt me. You're acting like you're not going to hurt me.
It's like, calm down, stop. And then it happened, and it's like, I wish I still had that recording, but I don't have the same phone anymore. But when I recorded him, and just to see somebody fall apart in your face, and you're like, this was all a facade. He's broken. He's in pieces. You know, you talking all tough, and your parents want you to, you know, leave the mother of your kids. Your sisters want you to leave. Like, nobody wants you in that situation. And you try to talk yourself up, like, yeah, I'm going to do it. It done. Like, he was like all over the place. And then it's like, he just fell apart. And that goes to show, not only was he manipulating me, he's being manipulated on that side.
That's what it sounds like he's in that situation that you normally would think a woman would be in, right? It happens to men too. It does. Except with men, it seems like he was really just trying to take ownership of it. And still try to be like, I'm still and try to eat his cake too. But you were the cake, so he tried to have that too.
He tried to have best of both worlds.
So
that was messy.
It was a lot. So the difference is that I at least felt like with Devin, it seemed as though like he was.
It's pronounced Devin. Not Devon.
I'm just saying Devon.
Me too. It's okay. Either
Devin. Sorry, Devin, y'all. Not Devon.
Either way, it's okay. But yeah, he was a bit more like honest. Let's say with his situation that he wasn't living in the same household with anybody, and I didn't let him come into my household. That's how I changed it.
Yeah.
Because Mark was always in my space. I said, no, we're doing this different.
Okay.
And that was no problem. He would bring me over. I didn't ask to meet his mom. He introduced me to his mom. I didn't ask to meet the kids. And that's another thing where it was confusing. If we were just playing the cool thing, why are you doing that? Did you meet anybody in my family? No, you didn't. So I kept everything where I said it was supposed to be. So that was another thing. And then you know, making sure that they were telling the truth, that they were both divorced. I did look that up. Okay. Cool. Just but again, it was like, I liked the fact that Devin was in his own household and had been separated, and that was like, okay, like, you know, so it's just like little things were a little different. But again, with Mark, he didn't do the whole nice and mean, although he was unstable ultimately. But he wasn't doing what Devin was purposely doing to me. So that was a difference.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to know, were you able to see, like when did you first realize what Mark was doing with the gifts and the showering you and all that? When did you start noticing, like, wait a minute? Or did you feel like, was it maybe after and reflecting? Because sometimes, like you said, you don't notice how how the situation is going
Mm-hmm.
while you're in it. It's kind of like being in the eye of the storm, right? Mm-hmm. Or so they say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, did you see it maybe in while it was happening, or was it like in reflection you noticed that?
I just had the feelings, and then in hindsight, like when everything was coming to an end, and then we tried to have a talk, like we were separating with each other, and then he didn't want to. He was like, he wanted to go out to dinner, and I'm like, but if you're separating, why are we going to dinner? And he was, this is what irritates me, when a man, let's say he says that he wants something with you, right? And maybe you're not necessarily on board at first, but he's so, again, you mentioned charming and all this stuff, and then you start to fall for that person, right? So it goes from what he wanted to what you both wanted to now, I'm sorry, I can't give you what you want. See, don't play those games with me. And that's when it's like he started to get a little messy. We're kind of changing stuff and trying to backtrack.
Right.
And I'm like, this could have been ended a long time ago. Why you take me to this point? Why do we get a place? Why do we get a, like, why do we do all of this?
Right.
You know, like, if that's where you want to be, nobody's stopping you. Stay there.
Exactly.
Like, but I hate when someone tries to flip anything and make it seem like you pulled them. I didn't pull you.
Right.
You asked for this. You wanted this.
It seemed like he was trying to create something he was missing, maybe with the situation that he had. Right.
Yeah.
So he was, you know,
it's what how I call it, a fantasy. Like, I was like his fantasy. And it was easy for him, and I was the calm, and over there was a storm, you know, and he got peace with me. But I'm no outlet, and you're not going to use me. You understand? Like, if that's where you want to be, make it work. Y'all have conversations, go to therapy. And that wasn't happening. It's like you're just living in chaos, and what are you doing to change it? You know, because to be honest, it wasn't, they're both the problem. It wasn't just him. They are both the problem, and they're both toxic for one another. So that's never going to flourish into anything. It's not
at all.
It's not. If you do not deal with the problem, it's just gonna be the same thing over and over and over.
It's very true. It's interesting to see those two different toxic dynamics. There isn't a uniformity style of toxicity. No, it comes in various
forms, different
shapes and sizes.
You
know, so it's definitely something to keep on the lookout for. But you know, in your situation, because now it just makes me think of, like, literally, like, you were in that place of being the side, you know, and so it's like to be in that spot. And I know you have like a lot of questions too. I just wanted to kind of get this out, but to be like in that position, how do you come back from that? Because our culture and the society today, right? They really like to make fun of, oh, the side piece or this or that. But let's be honest, it unfortunately, a lot of people, both men and women, too, you know, I just really want to place emphasis on that, fall victim to being in that role. And it's not a fun spot. And it's definitely, it's damaging and it's hurtful. So how did you come out of that too? Because that's, you know.
I think the thing with him, it didn't even appear that way. That's the thing, because, you know, sometimes people doing things, they're trying to hide it. That wasn't even happening. It was like, why am I meeting your mom? Why are you, like, all his friends, his family, his sisters? We would go out everywhere. You see, we would travel, take me on trips, like, wherever. It wasn't like,
it's all up in
that's
your
why
face.
That's why with his case, I'm like, in my mind, if someone has something with someone, or they still want something with a person, who allows them to be out 6-7 days? So that's why his actions made sense because there are people who have situations and they have kids with someone and they are just still living in the same household and they're still doing their own thing. That does happen.
It does.
So with him, it was a bit different. And as I mentioned, I think I mentioned in the book, where if I was just hearing from him on Tuesday and Thursday, and he couldn't call me after 8 o'clock, that's different. But the fact is, he was with me more than his own kids, and that's what I would tell him. Sometimes you can go home and he would want to be with me. So everything he was saying and doing, for the most part, it was matching up. Like, I'm his woman, he loves me.
So I was going to say, that's where I stand corrected, because then it did become that way. So, I mean, any person, even from, like, that point of it, looking on the outside, can see that.
And
it's his.
And you talked about how your coworkers saw that as well. They thought that you and him were going to be forever. They're like, who is this man?
Like, opening doors, opening the car doors all the time, bringing me roses. Sometimes it'll be, you know, a bunch of roses. People come up and be like, is it your birthday? No, it's not. It's just a regular day. If he saw that I wasn't maybe not happy one day, he would go right out, bring me roses, you know, helicopter ride. Just being that person to we would sit on the bench and talk. We would go to the beach and talk. We come home. He always want to cook dinner. Baby, I got it. I try to go in the kitchen. It's okay.
It's a perfect romantic.
Yeah,
right.
Sometimes I'll help make the dumplings and stuff. I'm like, baby, I got it. You know, what you want to drink, and I'll go and clean up after he's done. So it was, and we had so much fun just laughing together, making jokes. So it was like we had the ultimate, like, and we would always say, like, everything is so great, and there's that big hump in the way, and I'm like, but that's on you.
Exactly.
You understand? And he knew it was I left him in September 2013. I think I had given him until December. I said, I don't want to. No, I can't. Right. You have to figure out something. You have to have a conversation with that person, and figure out what you're gonna do. Like, you're not. He would carry on like a single dad. It was just like he's doing everything, and I'm like, but that's their mother.
Right.
She has to take on something and help and understand. And
do her part.
God forbid, what if something happens to you?
Exactly.
Who's going to care for the kids? And it's like he was so afraid to, like, step up and open his mouth. Like, she emasculated him. Like, it's just ridiculous. Step up.
That reminds me of a film I did see on Netflix, too. It was like, it was a black film, and it has like different, couples, black couples, and there was a situation where there was this couple. The actress was played by Jill Marie, I think, Scott, so she plays Tony from Girlfriends. I don't know.
Yeah, I know her.
And so she, she was like this wild party girl, and but she had like 2 kids at home, and she had this great husband who really, really loved her. But he, all his friends would just be like, "Yo, when are you gonna leave that woman?" Because
this movie, I saw it.
It's on Netflix. I
Is
think
it
35
with Kevin
and
Hart? 35 and Ticking.
35 and Ticking. Yes,
that was a good movie.
It was such a good movie, right? I loved it,
Mm-hmm.
and just seeing. Okay, so that situation, it's like they're telling him, "Yo, you need to leave." Like, and I kind of already seen how it's like him and the other girl, they had that chemistry because it was that tough love.
Yeah.
But he couldn't see it. He was so blindsided, and I think it's very easy for people when they're in damaging situations to then start they're not realizing that they can start doing damage to others. And I feel like this situation showed that.
Exactly.
He probably, I'd like to believe that maybe he is a good person, but because he was just wrapped up in so much mess, he wasn't realizing what he was doing to you, which isn't fair. Yeah. And that's a scary thing. It's like dealing with someone and then just not knowing the type of baggage they got going on that you really you couldn't predict that. And then just knowing how to like avoid that or kind of so that's wow.
It was a lot. And just to give you a quick example of like his standards, it's sad. I've never seen anyone with such low, and maybe it's a self-esteem issue within himself. That's I told you, he crumbled. So it's this, and then inside is broken up. When we were in the car, and then it was like he gave one thing. If she could just do this one thing. I've never in my life had a conversation with a man, and you say, well, so what do you look for in a woman? And he just says, oh, if she could just be nice. I have never in my life. That tells me how low his standards are for her.
Just niceness?
Yeah. So,
that's it?
That's
it?
Yeah, so that's really, that he had to do the work within himself, and I don't know if he will ever do it, but as long as he keeps avoiding it, that's too much. That's too much.
Wait, you can't force anyone to want to get better. I too also go to therapy, and I've had to learn that the people in my life who tend to drive me crazy from time to time, I can't force them to want to do certain things, like come with me to therapy sessions. I have to learn that I'm only in control of myself, and that if they want to do what they want to do, I can control how I react to things. So I can choose to literally just walk away and not have to deal with it, because unfortunately I may want to make them better or make them want to see things, but I can't drive them to that point, if they can't see it. So I just walk away and hope for the and hope for the best. But
wow,
I don't know if you got some
I feel
more.
like you covered so much, but I did want to mention when his ex-wife called you. So when Mark's ex-wife called you, like, how did you feel in that moment receiving this call from this unknown number? Like, how did you feel?
Annoyed. This was like the 6th time she was calling me. Yeah, it was like, I don't do that type of stuff. I don't like it. It's very high school to me. Call me from your direct number. You want to have a conversation? We can have a conversation. I didn't like that. So it's just like, it irritated me, especially when I finally listened and she didn't call back. And I was like, oh, I wish she would call back, because the way she was speaking is like, you have this twisted. Do you really keep telling me he doesn't want me? Really?
You must not understand.
No, don't. I don't appreciate that at all. But again, you know what? That goes to show why she ends up dealing with him as much as he ends up dealing with her, because she accepts it. If you, for you to say out of your mouth to say, oh, he always plays around, but he always comes back home. What
exactly.
Kind of
why are you allowing
that?
It's
crazy thinking.
Yeah.
So that right there says
right.
she allows him to just do whatever, because, and I said to him sometime after that, I'm like, you've never even been faithful. Never. He just scratched his head, like, and he's just like, oh man, you just like he knows that I know that I can pick up on it. It would just happen to be this is the first time that he had like a full blown relationship with someone, and she was threatened by that and threw a wrench in it, and he, you know, his mind is weak.
Back, so he's like,
and he can't separate. It's like he has 3 kids. Instead of 2. He can't separate them, and she manipulates him, and it's like, oh, you're not gonna see your kids, and he just falls for it, and he falls apart like silly putty, and then that's it. So they can have that life. That's not for me. You know, I've always appreciated the good that he has done for me, and sadly it's like when you mess up that bad in the end, it pretty much like it takes away from all of that, because it doesn't appear genuine. It's like, I'm just doing what I gotta do to buy time so she doesn't leave me, and I want to keep her, and you know, I just want to keep them separate, and I don't want to let this go. No. So
it's a whole mess. Lord. Like I wanted to say, because you know, she, you know, throughout us talking about the book, she would just be like, they're Jamaican, and I'm like, you know, I don't want to blame this on a Caribbean, you know, just Jamaican men, because I know. Listen, I'm Haitian.
Other men.
Okay, so there's that reputation. And I, you know, what I like to really think is that obviously this isn't just an ethnicity kind of thing, but overall it can be found in just different types of men, point blank, period. So upbringing does have a huge role to play in it, and I just know that you know, while we were on our way over here talking, we were just saying how it's like, you know, a lot of times it's the way you're brought up, and it's the norms and the rules that you grow up believing that dictate a lot of times like how you carry yourself and how you see relationships. So just being mindful of that. We may be raised a certain kind of way, but that doesn't mean that we got to keep those same things and grow up not questioning or trying to do better, because like you said, life is short. So while you're still here, like, better yourself, work on yourself, you know, create those boundaries, understand what you're like, get to know yourself, spend some time with yourself, understand what you like, what you don't like, and don't be afraid to just be unapologetic with it. Like you said, if you feeling like halfway, it's not working for you,
bye,
you know,
bye, I don't have time.
There's so many more, and at the same time, do you invest in you, you know, go after those dreams, make those goals happen. Just take each day for what it is, and focus more so on you first. Put you first. I'm learning how to do that. Be selfish, and then from there, I mean, only greatness can come. Selfish in the right way, of course. But you know, and only greatness can come from that wholeheartedly.
And just to make a point to that about like bettering yourself and doing better than maybe what was shown to you. You know, for me growing up, I didn't have, and still don't have to this day, I didn't grow up with love and encouragement and any of that. My mother, and it made me think now, maybe my mom is a narcissist. Because it's just there's like how a mother's supposed to be, nurturing and all of those things. But what did I do? I turned it around. How did I become a mentor? How do I show love to a little girl that's not even mine? You know, and I remember when I was younger, I said, I don't ever want a child to feel like this. I want a child to feel loved, to know that she can have someone to talk to, you know, and that's what I did. So whether you have, you know, grow up in an abusive household, alcoholics, anything like that, you see infidelity all the time, guess what? You have to use how it made you feel as your motivation to turn it around, instead of using it as an excuse to say, well, this is all I know. That's not good enough.
That's not a good enough excuse.
So
know better, do better. And it's beautiful that you've done that, and that you've been able to take that and flip that around. That takes a different amount of strength and wisdom. And I really do hope that people can take that away, that like that same thing that you felt like was a crutch that hurt you can actually end up being your strength. No one can take your will away from you. Like, don't let that desire, that fire burn out. You know?
Absolutely.
Keep it going. But this is where we do come to a close. You know, we talked about so much, we shared so much, and I just really want to say thank you. I'm so glad I met you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Also, just one last question, for our listeners, so if you can go back to your younger self, what advice would you give your younger self when it comes to romantic relationships? So if you can go back to this Q, what advice would you give her?
just stay strong and always follow your intuition. Always follow your intuition. It's something I had from the beginning, and it just taught me to, once that moment that I feel it, don't question it, go with it, and move on.
Yes.
That's it.
And that's
the best way to deal with it.
A word.
Period.
Okay.
Yes.
That is real. Trust yourself. I love that. So as always, we will share events that are happening at the Women's Center on our campus and teach you a few things along the way. Catch us next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.